welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 551. And today's date is December 26, 2014, and the title of this episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief. Let's get right into the economic collapse news. Now, as we know, the government, the central bankers have been trying to convince us that we're in some type of recovery. Obama was even out there saying, yes, we are in a recovery. You just can't feel it. You're not going to make more money. You're not going to have a secure job. You're just going to have to believe President Obama when he says we are in a recovery. Now, as I said before, when we're in a recovery, you feel it. You feel secure in your job. Those coming out of college, they have the ability to get a job. They have the ability to pay off their loans. We see that many people right now don't have this ability. They've been looking and looking and looking, and there is absolutely nothing. They're also manipulating a lot of the statistics right now, like unemployment, GDP, inflation. They're telling us that manufacturing is doing a lot better. They're trying to convince us that this holiday season is going to be a great holiday season. Of course, what they're doing is they're pushing the gas prices down, trying to make everyone feel like they have more money in their pockets, so they go out and spend this. And we're going to see, once the new year starts, probably in February, March, we're going to see a lot of stores closing down, a lot of stores that didn't make it, but the government, the central bankers are going to still try to convince us that we're doing everything the right way. We're in a recovery, and this is normal for a recovery when everything shuts down. One thing they can't touch and they can't manipulate is the Baltic Dry Index, and we've been covering this for quite a while. We have been noticing that the Baltic Dry Index is continually falling. Right now, it was at 788 points. It fell another 6 points. We're at 782. And something important to realize is that when we were in that Great Recession of 2008, which we're really still in, we went from 11,000 points all the way down to 647. We are at 782 right now. And we have to remember, the Baltic Dry Index is raw material, which is used for manufacturing. The U.S. government and other governments, central banks, cannot manipulate the raw material and tell us that everything is just fine. And this is why we've been covering this for quite a bit. What we're also seeing is that China and Russia has been separating themselves from the Western world, from the private Western central banks, and they're continually doing this. Of course, China is making a lot of bilateral trades, making agreements with many countries, pumping in billions of dollars into their infrastructure. BRICS goes live in 2015, and if we really look at this, China is now the de facto IMF for the BRIC nations. They're setting up this bank, which they're investing in, just like the IMF, and now China is really acting like the IMF to the BRIC nations. China offers Russia help with currency swap suggestion, but in order to fully backstop Russia away from the SWIFT world in which the dollar reigns supreme, one extra step was necessary: the launching of the direct FX trade involving the Russian and Chinese currency, either spot or forward, a move away from purely theoretical bilateral FX trade agreements, which would not only enable and make direct currency trading more efficient by sidestepping the dollar entirely, but also allow Russian companies to budget in Chinese yuan terms. It is no surprise, then, that this is precisely the missing step that was announced overnight and will be implementing started Monday. China is also launching trading in contracts with the Malaysian ringgit and the New Zealand dollar from the 29th of December. China is promoting usage of the yuan in global commercial and financial transactions with the ultimate goal of rivaling the dollar as a reserve currency. Extend the yuan swaps trading to 11 currency on the interbank foreign exchange market. Analysts say China will not halt its accelerated plans to internationalize its currency. This will provide companies with better hedging tools and at the same time make currency trading more efficient. China won't stop yuan globalization despite volatility in emerging market currency. China is promoting the use of its currency as an alternative to the dollar in global trade and finance, and more nations now want to capture the fast-growing market for offshore trade in yuan. And we know the IMF is going to be looking at the yuan renminbi come 2015, and they most likely could make it a reserve currency. Now, of course, the United States can veto this or try to veto this, and we're going to have to watch this very, very carefully as this progresses. Now, as we know, the U.S. government, the central bankers, have been dropping the oil prices, trying to put the squeeze on Russia, trying to pretty much implode their economy. But right now we're seeing the Russian ruble has rallied an impressive 34%, erasing most of the dramatic devaluation in the past couple of weeks, and it seems like things are getting much, much better. But we see the sanctions are taking place because we have to remember Obama signed that spending bill, and in that it includes sanctions on Crimea. And right now MasterCard and Visa have suspended service for Russian banks in Crimea, saying the decision complies with U.S. sanctions. This means that we can no longer issue or accept bank cards in Crimea and service them in the ATMs. And we have to remember, Russia knew this was coming. And I can't believe Visa and MasterCard are going along with this, because we thought they might have learned their lesson from the last time they tried to do this, and they lost they were going to lose a lot of business in Russia. And we have to remember, Russia created their own payment system, which is the same as the SWIFT, but it is Russian based, and seems like right now they're going to move away from SWIFT, move away from Visa, MasterCard, and use their own internal payment system. And Visa and MasterCard, they're going to use a lot of money. Now, Russia might extend this after they learn that, the United States has placed the sanctions, and they might be discussing it and say, listen, why don't we just disconnect ourselves completely right now and use our own payment system? They tested it back on the 15th of December, and right now they could be ready to go live and completely disassociate themselves from MasterCard, Visa, and everything else. And they will lose a lot of money. When I say they, it's MasterCard and Visa. They would lose a lot of money by not offering this to Russia. Now, there has been a leaked document. This is the secret negotiations of the TPP. The leaked document, jointly published by the Associated Whistleblowing Press and Filtrala. If the TPP is signed, the treaty would affect all services ranging from the electronic transactions and data flow to veterinary and architecture services. It would almost certainly open the floodgates to the final wave of privatization of public services. This is what this is all about. They want to take everything that is public and put them under the umbrella of corporations. And this would include healthcare, education, and water. Meanwhile, already privatized companies would be prevented from retransfer to the public sector. So no matter what happens, all these services would be controlled by corporations. And you know what's going to happen at this point in time. They will have a structure in place where they can give water to certain people and some water not to others, charge others a lot more money, while others will not get charged as much, and they can control everything and manipulate what is going on in each one of these countries. More worrisome still, the proposal stipulates that no participating state can stop the use, storage, and exchange of personal data relating to their territorial base. The leaked documents confirm it is being used to further the interests of some of the largest corporations on Earth. Negotiation of unrestricted data movement, internet neutrality, and how electronic signatures can be used strike at the heart of the individual's rights. And basically what they're doing is they're trying to get rid of everyone's rights. They're trying to bypass everything, put it under the corporate umbrella. And the major countries that are involved with this is 28 members is Australia, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Hong Kong, Iceland, Israel, Japan, Mexico, New Zealand, Norway, Pakistan, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, South Korea, Switzerland, Taiwan, and Turkey. And Russia is not part of this. The main part of China is not part of this. And we can see they're trying to start their own type of economic treaty with their own BRIC nations. Now, in the last couple of years, we have been seeing a lot of countries trying to remove the rights of the people, trying to stop the protests, trying to get rid of the homeless people. And out in the UK, we see UK police forces are misusing pre-charge bail by banning hundreds of protesters from attending lawful demonstrations. Spain as we know, has anti-protest laws. We see the UK is doing the same thing. The United States is trying to do the same thing. Since 2008, police have arrested at least 855 people in England and Wales and then released them on pre-charge bail, setting a date to return to the police station. Until their return, those bailed were prohibited from attending any type of demonstration. Civil liberties and protest groups insist that using bail is just a way of disrupting protest activity without the inconvenience of dealing with a formal legal process. As a result of the police's long track record of misusing pre-charge conditions against protesters in an irresponsible way, we believe the only solution is the complete withdrawal of this power for all protest-related offenses. And we can see many of the countries are trying to stop people from protesting because they realize as this economic collapse comes closer and closer, they realize people are going to get upset and they want laws in place which makes it legal for them to arrest people, to make it easier for the government officials to say, you broke the law, we need to arrest you. And of course, as they make these laws, they do believe it's the law of the land, but you have to remember, Nazis had many different laws, and it doesn't mean it was right. It means they created laws to back their agenda, and we see this happening in Spain, in France, in Italy, in the United States, in the UK, and many other countries. And even in France, what we're seeing is they're trying to get rid of the homeless people in their city. And we see this happening in many countries, even here in the United States. They have laws where you can be arrested if you fed or give money to a homeless person. In southwest France, they have come under fire for banishing homeless people from its city center after installing cages that completely cover benches used by local homeless people. Other common anti-homeless devices include cages near hot vents and devices that emit an unpleasant high-pitched noise, as well as benches built at an angle or with railing down the middle to prevent the homeless from sleeping on them. Now, they're spending millions of dollars doing all this. Why don't they put a program together to help these people? Think about what they're doing. They're coming up with all these devices, having people build these things, and they can take this money and help these people in other ways. But again, they don't want to do this. They're trying to cover up and hide what is going on. Now, on Christmas Eve, at approximately about 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the National Security Agency responded to a Freedom of Information Act request from the American Civil Liberties Union by releasing more than a decade's worth of incriminating quarterly and annual reports. It's amazing how they always do this type of stuff. They always do it during a holiday when no one is around. They do it in the middle of the night. They do it on New Year's Eve, the New Year. According to the heavily redacted reports to the President's Intelligence Oversight Board, intelligence operatives routinely email private data on American citizens to unauthorized recipients, stored that data in unsecured computers, and retained it long after laws required it to be destroyed. Because we have to remember, the NSA is in place to spy on the American people, to spy on the government officials, to blackmail certain people, and to create social profiles of every single person. And we have to remember, all of this is being done to track you later on, to understand who is a threat to their authority. Lawrence Lessig is out there, and he is claiming that the U.S. government has prepared a type of Patriot Act that is in place should a major security event occur, a 9/11 type of event. And just like the Patriot Act contains all sorts of new restrictions, there is a fear that this Internet Patriot Act will have many restrictions and laws that will limit the way the Internet is used. And we know for a fact, right after the World Trade Center, they brought up the Patriot Act. They had it ready to go. They knew this event was going to occur because, of course, they created the event, and they're going to do the same thing when the United States is cyber attacked. They're going to come up with this law that they just have waiting in the wings. We know CISA and CISPA are waiting there. This could be the Patriot Act that he's talking about, or they might have another law that is hidden that really nobody knows about, and they're just going to pull it out and say, this is why we need to take away your internet freedoms. This is why we need to ban the new media. This is why we need to control and fingerprint everyone going onto the internet so we can track every single individual. And this is exactly what they do. Now, as we know, China is bankrolling the new Nicaragua Canal, and it's going to become an alternative route through the Central America for China and Russia, as well an alternative route for potential military use. And again, they're pouring a lot of money into this, and it's going to rival the Panama Canal. And we can see right now they will probably shift a lot of the shipping from that old canal to the newer one, because that can handle much bigger ships. Now, there are conflicting reports coming out of Ukraine saying the peace talks are breaking down. Then there are others saying the peace talks are going well. They're having a prisoner swap right now, and a round of peace talks between Ukrainian and pro-Russian rebel leaders has been scrapped, the host of the negotiations in Minsk. This week's talks were meant to reinforce 2 September agreements that aim to do 2 things: end one of Europe's bloodiest recent conflicts and preserve Ukraine as a single nation in which Russia border regions enjoyed more autonomy. Yet, little of what was agreed in September has been achieved, and we can see right now they're having a very tough time. They're supposed to withdraw their heavy weaponry and bring it back quite a bit, so they have an 18-mile buffer zone between the two of them. They're saying that Ukraine is supposed to be moving the weapons back today, but we're going to have to watch this and see if this actually happens. Now, it seems like electric was cut off in Crimea. Train service has been cut off in Crimea, and we could be seeing that something is definitely going on. The region-wide blackout was first reported. Ukraine restored the power until today, when moments ago when we learned that Ukraine cut off the electricity to Crimea. They're also halting the train services, and they're saying because they just don't have enough coal to support all of this. But again, this could indicate Ukraine is stepping up its pressure on the Crimea area to put pressure on Russia. We see the sanctions taking place, and again, they are definitely preparing for a major offensive. They don't want these peace talks to go forward. The bankers did not get what they paid for. They paid for the entire country, and this is not what they received. Now, Russia came out with a new military doctrine. Russia has adopted an updated version of its military doctrine, which reflects the emergence of a new threat, which of course is NATO military buildup around Russia. And we see this buildup going on every single day. They're bringing in tanks, they're bringing in troops, they're putting up a missile shield, and Russia's looking at this saying, gee, why do they need all of this? Who are they going to fight? And they're starting to realize, oh, it's going to be us. And they created this military doctrine. The new sections of the doctrine outline the threat Russia sees in NATO's expansion and military buildup, and the fact that the alliance has taken upon itself global function realized with violations of international law. Another new point in the doctrine is that one of the Russian military goals is to protect national interests in the Arctic region. Again, we have to remember, a lot of the countries are fighting for that Arctic region. Great strategic location for a military base, a place where there's a lot of oil in this area, and everyone is going to be fighting for this area. Now, the USS Donald Cook is going to be entering the Black Sea, and they're going to be sailing that in. It is left there, and now it's coming back. And of course, what they're saying, it's there to maintain peace and stability in the region. We have to remember the Montreux Convention states a non-Black Sea state warship must be under 15,000 tons. No more than 9 Black Sea state warships with a total aggregate tonnage of more than 30,000 tons cannot be in the Black Sea, and they have to remove these ships after 21 days. So we'll have to watch this and see what type of buildup is going on in the Black Sea. Now, the Islamic State is claiming that they've launched another chemical attack in Anbar. It's a new chlorine gas attack. And again, we've seen this many, many times before. The Islamic State is controlled by the U.S. government central bankers, controlled by UK, Israel, other Arab nations, and we've seen them use gas attacks before in Syria. They were the rebels that were using sarin gas. They used them on the people of Syria, and we see the same thing is happening in Iraq. They're using the chlorine gas, and they're trying to ramp this up quite a bit. Now, on Wednesday, I reported that the Islamic State shot down a Jordanian plane, and they captured a pilot. The Pentagon is out there saying no, they had technical difficulties, the plane crashed. Others are saying yes, the Islamic State, they stole those weapons. Well, we know they were given to them, where they're able to shoot down planes, and all this is for is to pretty much create a no-fly zone over this area. And we see some conflicting reports coming from the Pentagon and the administration. The administration is trying to say, yes, a plane was shot down. Armed forces are saying, no, there was no plane shot down. And again, we've seen this happen many, many times where the administration butts heads with the Pentagon. And we can see right now the administration is trying to push their agenda forward. They want a no-fly zone. They want to set up a buffer zone. They want to bring the troops in there. They want to get Assad out of power. And that is their whole entire goal. It is never, ever changed. Now, we understand that South Korea, they had their nuclear plant cyber attacked, and now they're looking into it, saying it could be North Korea, and everything's going to be blamed on North Korea right after this Sony fiasco. And we can see right now the interview that was released. It was streamed, and it seems like all this was being done to boost the sales of the movie. It was also being used to implicate North Korea in doing a cyber attack so they can come down hard on them, try to provoke them. And we see right now that North Korea was also attacked, and they're experiencing trouble with their internet for 4 consecutive days, already an alleged cyber standoff with the United States, and their internet is fluctuating right now. The FBI is out there, and they're saying, well, maybe the IP really didn't come from North Korea. Maybe it was Japan, because now we're seeing that there were Japanese servers used in this cyber attack. And we've had a lot of hackers come out and say, even anonymous come out and say, it was no way North Korea, because an advanced actor would not do this whatsoever. They're even saying they don't have the capability of doing this, but there is no way that North Korea is going to do this and have the IP right outside of North Korea. It makes no sense. Even inside North Korea, they would bounce it off many, many servers. They would cover their tracks. They would try to pin it on somebody else. And we can see right now the FBI might again be wrong about what they've been talking about. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.